Over the years of developing the colorful conglomerate, the squad would come back with one final display of thievery, but maybe the trio bit off more than they could chew. I'm Saggy, and I'll be going over the worst parts of Sly 3: Honor Among Thieves. Sucker Punch had perfected the formula of the Cooper Gang's playstyle, so the obvious next step would be to expand upon it. But I think in many places, this is to the game's detriment. We have our star players in action here, of course, but for the first time in the series, the group opts to expand their ranks in order to take on their biggest challenge yet. This is all fine and dandy, but once you get into some of these missions, they will actively make you want to hop off. There isn't anything too difficult to deal with, but there are many marks of monotony and some levels just drag on for what seems like a lifetime. Growing the size of the gang does provide new gimmicks throughout the game constantly, which is much more refreshing than the constant repetition of jobs in Sly 2, but it's almost equivalent to busy work or padding sometimes, similar to some of Sly 1's minigames. I would even argue that there's overlap between characters that could have been condensed down into one member. You're telling me Bentley can create a fucking time machine, but can't make some damn RC toys? They show that the Guru can possess others, like sharks at Cane Island, but he couldn't dive underwater and take Dimitri's place? Give the little purple bastard a snorkel and some swim gear and he's golden. It does make you wonder, what if the devs focused on less characters in order to polish the quality around them? A common theme that this franchise is oh so familiar with, unfortunately. With all of the additions made to this game somehow still lacks compelling reasons to come back to it. Of course, there are missions that you might want to revisit, but the devs managed to fall into a similar trap laid for Sly 2, where missions start to get reused and reskinned as the new stage gimmicks begin to run thin. Like you get a costume to full guards in Paris, but that's the only place you can even use it, so they just take that same idea and rehash it 2 more times for different hub areas. Speaking of hubs, remember clue bottles? Well, they just don't exist anymore. These will be scattered all over the area and will give the player a decent incentive to actually explore the map, but they're absent here. Remember treasures? You guessed it, those got the boot as well, condensing the majority of acquired loot into pickpocketing. Extras do exist in the form of Master Thief challenges, a callback to Sly 1's Master Thief sprints. Just like in the first game, these are trials that take you back through previous missions. But here, they aren't just tests of speed, but just general annoyances that make them unfun. I get that they're challenges, but please, someone tell me who wants to go back to play a shittier version of the crane mission. It feels like an attempt to keep the player by haphazardly adding arbitrary modifiers to a job like a round of Test Your Luck and Mortal Kombat. It's parts of the game like this where you can see the 1-year development cycle allotted. With how expansive this entry becomes, you would hope to see some evolution of the characters and their playstyles, but sadly, they stay relatively unchanged. Bentley is crippled in Sly 2, changing aspects of his appearance, but his game plan is mostly untouched. Murray receives similar treatment, but with the added ability from Bentley and Sly 2 to freeze time. A plus is that they do get extremely more competent in their ability to traverse stages over Sly 2 with Bentley's triple jump and Murray's ball form. The characters are relatively unchanged, and this fact is almost overshadowed by the pure amount of changing gameplay at hand in this title. Of course, our main man Sly has more abilities, but most of them are just carried over from the first game, with the ones taken being given to Bentley. Looking at the list of power-ups, it's apparent that less was really added but rather rearranged. Now you probably notice how I haven't mentioned any of the other squad members, and that's because they're limited to the missions that the game provides for them. No hub world, no abilities. So if you want to run around Venice using your Gurusian illusion, well fuck you. Wouldn't it be cool to use the panicking and flight of fancy to rain down fireworks as you fall from a blimp? Nope, not at all. The game insists on pinning you to the main trio, which you've already seen the abilities of for multiple hours right from the start if including the previous game. The more the game would move forward, the more it would take some steps back. There's a shift in the overall energy of how each story beat connects to the overarching narrative. Matter of fact, the main plot has a rather different take than previously. In 1, Sly grows as a thief and recovers the Thievius Raccoonus. In Sly 2, the gang combats Clockwork one last time to end his everlasting tyranny on the Cooper family. And in 3, it's all centered around an island that hosts the Cooper legacy, the Cooper Vault. The main difference in these stories is that 2 and 3 are personal and are necessary quests Sly and the gang endure that allow them to grow closer as a team, whereas here the objective at hand is something that could be left alone and absolutely no one would be affected to a large degree. The Thievius Raccoonus is a literal look into his ancestry and a birthright used for the next Cooper to add upon it. Clockwork is on full display in Sly 2's finale, perpetuating the notion that the metal bitch will always terrorize the family and the guys put an end to it. The Cooper Vault is just a giant mountain of the Cooper's stash, each one adding to it similar to the book. But this isn't really a necessity, but more of a trophy of the ancestors' achievements. If Dr. M manages to get into it, cool. He gets mega rich. If Sly decides to intervene and to claim the mountain, which is the timeline we got, then cool. But none of it gives enough stakes for the cast to really develop this sense of investment in this arc. There are also no connecting threads for the bosses of this game to the plot, other than Penelope. All of them are just in the way of the main mission, which is to recruit more allies. And it boils down to, do me a solid and I'll join the gang. Even the final episode is Sly basically asking everyone to do him a favor and to help him do this vault heist thing. As rocky as the story may be in comparison to its predecessors, it does wrap up nicely, so at least that's a plus. Being a thief and all, you would think that these guys are ballin'. After all, the gang takes multiple trips around the globe for years on end, but we get to Sly 3 and I guess the well started to run dry. A while ago I mentioned that most of your money would come from pickpocketing for much of the game, and due to this, it actually becomes more difficult to scrounge up the funds for power-ups. That wouldn't be too much of an issue if some of the jobs weren't locked behind them. Therefore, you'll be running around looking for shiny pockets to pillage until you can progress. On top of that, the pockets with valuables are fucking random on top of being a random item acquired. You instantly get the funds from stolen goods in this game instead of needing the thief net like in Sly 2, but that's offset by the fact you can't steal in any other way in the game, and the only way I can rack up some coin is to steal from some goddamn pocketbooks. Sly 1 has you getting enough clue bottles to crack a vault, and Sly 2 doubles down on this by adding the pickpocketing and treasures, but because clue bottles were left behind, the only vaults in Sly 3 are in missions. In Sly 2, you're stealing everywhere, but in 3 it's only relegated to its bombastic heist. There is another way to obtain the monies, and yes, that would be through the ship battles. But this is literally before the final act of the game, and since it's the best option for stacking, you'll be seeing the 7 Seas often enough. Not only is this a shame in regards to gameplay in the hub world, but it also leaves a trail of disappointment with how little stealing you can actually do for yourself. But what do you think? Maybe you wish we could have learned a little more about Papa Cooper. Maybe you wish that the crew could have went toe to toe with a rival gang again, like in the 2 previous games. Subscribe, like, and share. I'm Saggy, and I'm also out.